What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Disarranged Talk Show. I'm your host, Andrew Turner. Joining me soon enough is my best friend, Matthew Gardner. Tonight we have a compelling show for you. We'll wrap up in a bow, kind of, the Afghan Adjustment Act. We'll talk about visas being held up, and we're also going to be getting into some of the bills that are going on and trying to get passed through Senate. And also, we're going to have a good look inside the testimony and hearing of United States Marine Corps veteran Tyler Vargas Andrews. So without further ado, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. This is Disarranged Talk Show. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now tuned in to Disarranged Talk Show. Joining you live from Be More on the D, your hosts, Matt and Andrew. Please like, subscribe, and comment.
Back, my friend. How are you, man?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, my friend. Long week of work. Last week had a good weekend, but looking forward to rock and rolling this week, man. What about you?
Well, I first off want to thank our one viewer that's joining us.
It's actually me.
Oh, okay.
You're welcome. So yeah, we're killing it, crushing it.
We're killing it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, somebody else hopped on. Good. Yeah,
go.
it's been a good week, man. Time flies by. Summer's almost over. Another year's gone. That type of thing. But it's been okay. I feel like I'm getting older every day.
Yeah. Well, we got the Marine Corps birthday coming up, but that's the planning season. Which we haven't actually really even talked about that, surprisingly.
No,
but
we need to.
I know that the guys and everybody, there's like a 12 or 15 bedroom Airbnb floating around in the group chats right now. So,
really?
Everyone gets their own room, bed, the whole nine. So we'll have to definitely discuss that. But it's definitely the cheaper route than staying at that damn casino.
Okay, that sounds good.
That casino was bullshit.
It was nice, but more expensive than it was worth.
Yeah, but there was no amenities, dude. Like that, you had to there was still nothing, and it was like $900, it was like $1,200, I think, for the 3 nights. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. It's because it was a casino, right?
Well, it's stupid. But what do you got for? Let's hop into some of your current events, pal. This is my favorite part of the show.
And now, your news and current events with Matt G.
Well, first, we'll start with what you started talking about, the new VA appropriations bill that just passed in July. It passed the House, which is owned by the Republicans right now, and it's going to go to the Senate, which is still held by the Democrats. So I'm going to play a short clip that'll speed us up on what's on the table for that bill.
Yeah, I got to say,
the battle over the Defense Authorization Act, it is intensifying after House Republicans tacked on amendments that many believe have no chance of passing the Senate. ABC's Jay O'Brien joins us now from Capitol Hill to break it all down. Good morning, Jay.
Gio, good morning. This is a must-pass bill that funds the military, and getting it through Congress is typically pretty routine. But this year, with Republicans now in control of the House, the legislation is loaded down with hot-button conservative amendments, including scrapping a Pentagon policy that covers abortion-related expenses for service members, barring the DoD from paying for hormone treatments and gender-confirming surgeries for trans soldiers, eliminating all military diversity, equity, and inclusion offices, plus banning military installations from displaying non-approved flags like pride flags. Overall.
Yeah, so there it is. I mean, you can see why they're going to have a tough time getting that passed in the Senate. But since they have the House, they threw what they wanted to throw on there, and it passed, and we'll see what happens. What's your thoughts on those?
I think if you join the military, man, all that should be neutral. It's like it's neutral ground for as much as it's like neutral ground for politics, neutral ground for race, neutral ground for a lot of those things, those social differences, because it's all like it's a combined effort for one mission and one idea, right?
Yeah.
To protect the freedom of our country.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're there for one purpose, right? So it should be unified.
And when did we really start giving a shit about people's feelings? Like, you know,
Well, that's where you get into some dangerous territory when you start doing that in the military. You start catering to one person.
and that's
It
the
becomes a
thing.
shit show.
You can't do that. We were all equally pieces of shit, and we trained as equals. Other than the rank structure, that's the only thing that sets you apart. But you had to earn that. I just, like you said it really good earlier today when we were talking about this. The only flag that should be flown is the American flag, or and your service flag, or whatever
Yeah, I mean,
branch you're in.
I think
That
you're
keeps it neutral for everybody, right? It's not
right.
catering to one side or the other.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
what's the big
you're
deal?
in your own, you're at your own home. You can fly whatever flag you want, but you're in a unit. You're serving United States military and whatever branch of service you're in. That's all that needs to be represented. I don't need to know who you're sleeping with or what you prefer or anything. Not that I disagree with any of it. It's just not relevant in that case. So,
It's not relevant to the mission at hand.
not at all.
So that's a hot topic, man. Good
Yeah,
one.
so we'll see what happens when it gets to the Senate. I think that maybe, they threw 5, 6 things on there. I think maybe they probably think they'll get a couple to slide by. I'm sure they're gonna have to make concessions,
Yeah.
but they're gonna have to agree on something. So we'll see what happens. So this is a caveat a little bit to the Afghan act that we talked about last week.
Hmm.
This story is coming in hot along with the act that we talked about, because we have more than 10,000 Afghan refugees that are held up and waiting to get visas to come into the country. And a lot of them are provision protections that we promised them. I'm going to show a quick clip to speed us up, and then we'll talk about it after.
Thousands of people trying to leave Afghanistan as the Taliban takes control of the country following the drawdown of U.S. troops. And many of the Afghans trying to escape actually helped American armed forces, serving as everything from translators to engineers.
People are shocked. The interpreters, not only the interpreters, but everybody who worked with the U.S. forces, they are just heading to the airport to at least get to a safe place.
Ahmadullah Siddiqui works for No One Left Behind. It's a nonprofit organization pushing for the U.S. to hold its promise to the Afghan nationals who worked with our troops. In return for their work, the U.S. grants special immigrant visas, also known as SIVs. If eligible, the Afghans can come to the U.S. and bring their families. And that sounds good on paper, but many of the Afghans who went above and beyond to help American service members are stuck in limbo.
Wild, right? I mean, it's absolutely disgusting to me, especially since I watch every day how many thousands of illegal immigrants cross our border, and we give them safe refuge, hotel rooms, food, cell phones. And here we are. We spent 20 years in these people's countries. A lot of them that served with us and walked with us on it, slept with us and went out on missions with us. That are trapped there now, that'll probably be hunted down and killed by the Taliban. And they're still waiting on us to get them over here. I think it's fucking deplorable. And it's another fucking stain on us. This whole thing has turned into a big shit stain, and it's just nasty, man. It's really, really nasty.
Just seeing that footage again of the withdrawal, and there's more to it, and we'll talk about it, but that's everything in a nutshell of the breakdown of the chaos that you were seeing with no control. They said in artillery, it's control chaos. Everyone's running around. If you see a gun line and you see, a when ready mission, you're going to think, what the hell? Everyone's running around doing something different, screaming something different, but it's control chaos. You can tell in that video that there was no law or order of what was going on.
Well, how helpless do you have to be to jump on the wheel of a fucking airplane? And we'll get into why they were that desperate, because there's a reason for that. We'll get into why they were that desperate. It's really sickening, the whole thing. So,
You know,
but that's all I got for current events. And
well, with that, you even bringing that up brings me to a point or a part where I'd ask, like, you and I have never really. I think we did a show on the withdrawal. We talked about how bad it was, but now that it's over, said and done with, I think it's we've never really talked about it. So I'm anxious to show this next clip, which is just literally a clip of a longer video, or a longer hearing, if you will. This is going to be a good segue into talking about your thoughts, my thoughts of our service to our country and deploying to Afghanistan. This clip right here we're going to show you is from the hearing and testimony statement of United States Marine Corps veteran Tyler Vargas Andrews. And this was within the last, how long?
I believe it was a few months ago. It was the Afghan withdrawal hearing. And I'll get into a little bit more detail of that day. But he's going to be talking a little bit about right before they were hit by a suicide bomber, and Sergeant Andrews lost his leg and his arm that day. So let's get into the clip.
Requested engagement authority while my team leader was ready on the M110 semi-automatic sniper system. The response: leadership did not have the engagement authority for us. Do not engage. I requested for the battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Brad Whited, to come to the tower to see what we did. While we waited for him, psychological operations individuals came to our tower immediately and confirmed the suspect met the suicide bomber description. He eventually arrived and we showed him our evidence, the photos we had of the two men. We reassured him of the ease of fire on the suicide bomber. Pointedly, we asked him for engagement authority and permission. We asked him if we could shoot. Our battalion commander said, and I quote, "I don't know," end quote. Myself and my team leader asked very harshly, "Well, who does? Because this is your responsibility, sir." He again replied he did not know, but would find out. We received no update and never got our answer. Eventually, the individual disappeared. To this day, we believe he was a suicide bomber. We made everyone on the ground aware. Operations had briefly halted, but then started again. Plain and simple, we were ignored. Our expertise was disregarded. No one was held accountable for our safety. About 1730, Staff Sergeant Darren Hoover, friend and mentor, came to get me from the tower to go help find an Afghan interpreter in the crowd. We found the interpreter and his brother, born with American passports. They told us of 5 family members still in the canal. I stayed there waiting for the family members standing against a 2-foot canal wall. 10 minutes passed. Then a flash and a massive wave of pressure. I'm thrown 12 feet onto the ground, but instantly knew what had happened. I opened my eyes to Marines dead or unconscious lying around me. A crowd of hundreds immediately vanished in front of me, and my body was catastrophically wounded with 100 to 150 ball bearings now in it. Almost immediately, we started taking fire from the neighborhood, and I saw how injured I was with my right arm, completely shredded and unusable. I saw my lower abdomen soaked in blood. I crawled backwards roughly 7 feet because I thought I was still in harm's way. My body was overwhelmed from the trauma of the blast. My abdomen had been ripped open. Every inch of my exposed body, except for my face, took ball bearings and shrapnel. I tried to get up, but could not. Laying there for a few minutes, I started to lose consciousness when I heard Chaz, my team leader, screaming my name as he ran to me. His voice, his voice calling to me kept me awake. When he got to me, he dragged me to safety and immediately started triaging me, tying tourniquets on my limbs and doing anything he could to stop the bleeding and start plugging wounds with the help of the other Marines. I was awake through most of it, screaming, moaning, and cursing. I ask you to please ask me about getting shot at the tower in Abbey Gate and how no one wanted my report post-blast. Even NCIS and the FBI failed to interview me. Ask me to elaborate on my ordeal post-blast, and ask me about this one little girl and her family that I reunited. Our military members and veterans deserve our best because that is what we give to America. The withdrawal was a catastrophe in my opinion, and there was an inexcusable lack of accountability and negligence. The 11 Marines, 1 sailor, and 1 soldier that were murdered that day have not been answered for. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Yeah, so before we get into it, I just want to kind of lay the groundwork a little bit for what he was talking about. They were given the day before an intel briefing that there was a possible suicide bomber for that day. And Sergeant Andrews there was a sniper. He was up on watching his tower. And on the day that it happened, he actually saw a man that met that description of the suicide bomber that they were given. He called this hire and asked for permission to engage. They denied him. He did it 3 times. They denied him all 3 times. So then he requested for the CO, which you heard him talk about, to come up and get visual confirmation. And the CO came up, got visual confirmation that it was the guy that they thought was the suicide bomber. And then, like you heard him, he asked his CO if he could engage, and he said he didn't know.
I think what a lot of people don't understand is that's such a real situations on all different levels. We're talking, this is a sniper situation. The stress of being over in country and questioning things you do before you do it because of a law standpoint and not a safety or protocol standpoint is one of the worst things I think a human being can experience, let alone the physical wounds of war and battle.
Sure.
That captain, I know exactly what he was thinking. Well, if I make the wrong call, there's my career.
It was a lieutenant colonel.
It was a lieutenant colonel.
It was the battalion commander.
It
So
blows my mind, man.
That tells you how hard pressed those hard ups were, or those higher ups, hard ups. Tells you how hard pressed those higher ups were by what was going on back in DC to not do something that they were going to get in trouble.
Was it the next day that he got hit?
It was that day. It was after that CO left the tower. Then he went back down to help his friend. Mind you, this young man and his friends were literally watching. He said he had saw over 50 Afghanistan women and children executed by the Taliban 50 yards from the gate, and asked permission to intervene and was denied every time. They literally watched the Taliban come up and build a perimeter around the airport with their gear that they left behind, with their trucks, wearing their Kevlars, using their weapons.
That's where our gear went.
Mhm.
You know, man, I'll be real honest with you, man. I spent a lot of time with myself and my dogs, and I've found myself lately thinking about our service and what we did. And I know we've talked about before, like you're there for the person to the left and right, no matter what political stance there is. Like you're there to do the mission to the best of your ability and bring everyone home to the left or right. And how easily it was just thrown away, our lack of commitment to the people that have helped us win countless battles, help us bring American lives home safe and sound, us being two of them. You know, in a different lifetime, I'd probably do it all over again the same way. Because I believe I have that warrior in my blood. It's not just it wasn't just a choice. I think it's in all our bloods. But I'm embarrassed to have been a part of something like that, and how it played out. It kind of feels that everything we did was for what? It was a dog and pony show. And you know, it sucks to not having your place in that world of everything that you did and sacrifice and how your life is now today, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that I think I purposely avoided watching the news about the Afghan withdrawal and really the details of it for this main reason, right? I went over there with 9/11 in mind, right? And all the people we lost in that day. And thinking that, you know, we can help this country and we can help these people and we can find the bad guys at the same time, you know. And it's been very hard on me the past month or so to kind of digest what that time in my life meant now, you know, because of how quickly it was not only just thrown away and disregarded, but how we just shit in the face of all those people that were there that believed us, you know, when we told them we were going to help them, when we told them that they didn't have to be scared anymore. Um, you know, it's just all these cocksuckers that wear fucking suits and make these decisions. You know, none of them had to be over there and look those kids in the face. None of them had to be there and promise to help people. You know, they make these fucking decisions, and there's no consequences to it. And, you know, we're all pawns in their big fucking game.
Well, I think that's the thing that hurts the worst, man. Like, you know, I said it's not knowing your place. At one point, I definitely thought I knew my place in that whole thing. You know, and it goes back to a family member telling me it was a war game in my head. And now as the fog of war, if you will, dissipates, I'm starting to question, man, like, especially now with injuries setting in, and you know, now my physical well-being is constantly being threatened. And I'm like, yeah, well, guess what? I could, you know, I jumped off 7 tons with X amount of weight on my body, and I ran around. I could pump up a cannon faster than anybody. I can this, that, and the next. And I didn't get to shoot artillery in fucking combat. Like, you know, like, and we beat the hell out of our bodies for, I don't know for what, because if it was for that, I don't want to be a part of it.
Right.
You know, knowing that how unorganized everything was, and you know, the Taliban now has all our gear, and we just outfitted them. And yeah, to your point, man, nobody's being held accountable for that. And it's bullshit.
No, and I loved what Sergeant Andrews said in another part of his testimony, and said, you know, if this was somebody wearing digital MARPAT, You would have fucking hauled them in. They would have stood court-martial already, and they would be in Leavenworth for the rest of their life. You know, but because it's some asshole in a fucking suit or a dress, let's not exclude women who make decisions in Washington, you'll never hear about it.
How many Democrats showed up to that hearing?
No Democrats showed up to the Afghan withdrawal hearing. So,
wouldn't you think, again, going back to the military being a neutral place, like it should, these people, like what, like how do I don't know, man. I'm not wired that way, dude, and it chokes me up thinking that there's some assholes out there making decisions for the common person that have no idea what the fucking common person is or what we do or anything like that. At the end of the day, the common people are the ones that join the military, right?
yeah.
To be
Well, I mean, you know, the Democrats are holding their own hearing on it now. It's been months later after it's been requested multiple times for them to do it. What pisses me off is all the shit that they've had on Capitol Hill that they've been cackling about before this, you know, all the stupid, trivial fucking bullshit issues. You know, and to finally get around to talking about this, you know, it's just like,
well, their priorities are completely jacked up. They want to talk about people's feelings and making people feel comfortable in the military, and they want to fly, you know, they want to fly flags and they want to represent. When the hell, like being homosexual or anything like that, it's been a thing forever. And how come now it's so shoved in everyone's faces and they're attacking the one organization that is supposed to be completely neutral on all this because it's for the common, like the greater good? I just don't fucking get it, man. And it
well,
flusters me.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think acceptance is a wonderful thing. You know, like we had our buddy Tommy on here, and
Yeah.
the repel from President Obama for "Don't Ask, Don't Tell" was
Yes.
a humane bill to pass to allow people who want to love somebody different be able to do so in public and not be charged for it. But you know, like I said before, all that shit doesn't matter. You know, when you're there and you're with your buddies and you're training and you're fighting, like whoever you're sleeping with at night and whoever's back home and all that bullshit and how you feel, and none of that shit matters.
But during the day, don't you agree? Like that creates a divide. It creates two different types of people.
Well, my
And
problem,
that's not the idea of the Marine Corps or the military in general. You're all the same, right? Like, no, everyone's equal. But if you introduce, it's like having political parties. Like, oh, we're all one, united together. But yet again, we have fucking parties that divide us. It's the same idea in the military, in my opinion.
well,
When you introduce things like this,
my problem with
right?
that is the tens and the thousands of service members that tried to get a religious exemption for the COVID vaccination. They denied them based
Yeah.
on their religious beliefs, and they pushed them out of the military. But then they make exceptions for people based on their preferences. You can't do one thing for one person and not for the other. It's either
Well,
we all suck or, you know, everybody gets what they fucking want, period.
and you can't do that in the military.
You can't.
You
So
can't.
it has to be we all suck.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you got to go into it knowing that the common goal is the mission, right? And having a sense of serving something in a higher purpose. It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's not about you.
Well, that's the thing. The great, like, you know, Marine Corps boot camp. What's the one thing they take away from you?
Yeah, yourself.
There's, but now it doesn't make any sense. It's completely opposite of what they taught us and how we were trained. You know, and I just hate how all this shit is affecting.
It's going to
The
be
one,
interesting, man, because I touched on it a little bit last week, and we're entering a really strange time in our country now where we're at the cusp of maybe entering in some very dangerous situations with some pretty powerful enemies, and we are the weakest, no doubt, our military has ever been, and the most divided our country has ever been. And you know, I try to tell young people all of this with, you can shit on the military all you want and talk why would you ever join the military, but you realize when you turn 18, you are required to register in selective service, and that means because there's not enough people that want to join the military. If we go to fucking war with China, guess whose ass is going? Yours.
Batters up. Batters up.
So
I mean, I would imagine at this point we're probably phased out, huh?
well, I am. I got
Yeah.
I did my service limitation, but they don't want my old ass back there, man. They don't want me back there. But yeah, I just think, especially for the military, man, we need to do better. We need to refocus our priorities for that. When it comes to humanity outside of the military and addressing that, I don't care. But if we want to win battles, we want to take care of the mission, you need to don't fuck with something that's worked for thousands of years. Are there toxic things in the military that need change? Absolutely. Fuck with those things all you want, right? Like the sexual assault, the toxic leadership, all those fucking things need to change, right?
Yeah.
But as far as being one and training as one and fighting as one, and having one common goal, no one's any different than the other person. That needs to stay the same in order to have success.
I agree 100%. Like why like to your point, why fuck with it?
Yeah, I mean there's definitely things that need to change. There's no doubt about it, man. I mean the shit that gets swept under the rug and with assaults and all that. We had one of our friends on here, Miss Flo, give her story, and it's ridiculous, man. The Vanessa Guillen story and all that shit.
But it all boils down to the higher ups trying to cover up so that doesn't put it tarnish their careers.
Yeah, it's the same shit as
it's the same thing as the politicians.
Yeah.
Where are all those people that affected Bud Light and Budweiser? And I see those videos constantly still. Their tents are empty. Like those are the masses of people that need to have their attention shifted to things like this to make a bigger impact, to be like, yo, why aren't people being held accountable? But everyone just turns their, turns a blind eye.
It's going to become like I said, regardless of what people believe, think, or care about in the military, if we get into action and we don't have enough people, it's going to become everybody's fucking problem, unless you can get out of this country and hide, because your kids will fucking go.
Yeah. Yep.
So
they don't care if you're right, left, up, down, straight, whatever. It does not matter. You're going. So, that's a good point. That's a great point. Well, buddy. So I guess my last question for you. What's after it's all said and done? What's your feelings to your service and what you've done for this country after this withdrawal, and it's all kind of put to rest?
Yeah, I'm extremely proud of my individual service. I know why I did what I did, and I'm proud that I was there for my brothers and my sisters that I served with, and I'm proud that I was there for my country when asked to serve. Right? It sickens me that they've shit on this 20-year that they've shit on this project that we've been doing for 20 years that they sold us on. And it's in our name. Those people remember our faces, not the pieces of shit that are sitting with suits on back in Washington. They remember our faces.
I'm also very proud of what my individual service obviously very proud of the people we were with that night. You know, being able to be a part of their story and know that, you know, if they become old and gray, that we're always going to be a part of that, and to always live on through someone else because of good deeds and honor. There's nothing greater in life for me. It is hard, man, thinking about this stuff and knowing that those people have such a probably bad sour taste in their mouth for us, and just like you said, they see our faces and they don't understand the political games either, you know. So
No.
this was a tough one, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, man, another great show. I appreciate you, and everybody out there watching now and in the future. We appreciate you taking your time out of your day and night to sit down and listen to us run our mouths and talk about things we feel like we are a little passionate about. So please stay tuned. We will be back in 2 weeks from now with another great episode. Until then, everybody, I hope you have a safe and enjoyable time. And remember, a healthy network is a strong network. Take care. Peace.
Thank you for joining us. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.